The corridors of power and the grand halls of ancient monarchies have always been places where subtle symbols carry far more weight than the loudest declarations. For centuries, a simple gesture, an unexpected public appearance, or a carefully timed alliance could shift the entire landscape of public opinion and rewrite the unspoken contracts between rulers and the societies they represent. In our modern, interconnected digital age, this delicate dynamic has not disappeared. It has merely migrated from the heavy tapestries of state reception rooms to the immediate, unyielding arena of global media platforms. Here, every single frame is dissected, every caption is scrutinized for hidden intent, and the timing of a single publication can ignite an immediate, unstoppable firestorm of public outrage. When an institution that prides itself on maintaining a neutral, stabilizing presence above the cultural fray steps, even inadvertently, into one of the most volatile societal debates of the 21st century, the consequences are instantaneous. The delicate bridge between traditional authority and a deeply fractured public is suddenly subjected to immense pressure, exposing the deep ideological fault lines that run through our contemporary cultural landscape. To truly understand how such a moment gathers its explosive force, one must observe the intricate mechanics of public perception and the way modern audiences consume the lives of those in the spotlight. We live in an era where the boundary between public service and personal ideology has completely blurred, leaving public figures to navigate a treacherous minefield of competing expectations. Every movement is watched, every association is judged, and a single moment caught on camera can undo years of careful reputation building. It is a world where silence is often interpreted as complicity, and where a casual encounter can be transformed into a defining statement of intent. Before we dive deeper into the specific events that have recently sent shockwaves through the global media landscape, exposing these raw nerves of public discourse, take a brief moment to subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss an exclusive. Deep-hitting investigation into the forces shaping our world. The unfolding narrative we are examining today is not merely about a singular encounter or an isolated piece of media. It is a masterclass in how modern cultural warfare can instantly engulf even the most insulated figures, transforming a routine event into a massive battleground over identity, representation, and the heavy burden of public platforms. The atmosphere surrounding this unfolding situation is heavy with a sense of inevitability, as two completely different worlds, each carrying its own immense cultural baggage, suddenly collided in full view of a global audience. On one side stands a historic institution that has spent decades trying to redefine its relevance in a rapidly changing world, carefully calibrating its public image to project continuity, grace, and an unwavering commitment to traditional values of community and literacy. On the other side is a literary titan whose creative genius once united generations of readers around the globe, but whose outspoken philosophical positions have in recent years transformed her into one of the most polarizing figures in modern media. When these two massive cultural forces intersect, the resulting impact is guaranteed to reverberate far beyond the walls of any palace or the boundaries of any literary circle. It creates a perfect storm where past loyalty, modern activism, and the relentless speed of digital commentary collide to produce a narrative that is as much about the future of public discourse as it is about the individuals involved. The initial reaction to this sudden intersection of traditional authority and modern cultural controversy has been nothing short of a digital tidal wave, with thousands of observers instantly taking sides in a debate that seems to have no room for nuance or compromise. For many who have closely followed the evolution of public figures in the media, this moment represents a critical tipping point, a visual manifestation of a deeper struggle for the soul of contemporary culture. The space where this encounter took place, steeped in history and grand tradition, provided a sharp, almost jarring contrast to the hyper-modern conflict that immediately erupted online. It is a vivid reminder that no matter how ancient or insulated an estate might seem, it cannot remain completely separate from the intense ideological battles that define our current era. The unfolding commentary reveals a deep sense of betrayal among longtime supporters, who view the association not as a harmless meeting of minds, but as a deliberate and poorly timed validation of ideas that continue to fracture communities worldwide as the digital dust begins to settle. The true scale of the controversy becomes increasingly apparent, drawing in commentators from every corner of the media landscape and forcing an intense re-examination of the responsibilities that come with holding a massive public platform. The debate is no longer contained to a simple critique of an image or a caption. It has evolved into a much larger conversation about the limits of public expression, the nature of institutional neutrality, and the complex ways in which modern figures are held accountable by an increasingly vigilant public. Every word of the official communication is being analyzed for hidden meanings. Every detail of the setting is being interpreted through the lens of current societal tensions, and the overarching narrative continues to grow more complex by the hour, setting the stage for a much deeper exploration of the underlying forces that brought these two influential figures together in the first place. The precise spark that ignited this global digital conflagration occurred on a seemingly quiet Tuesday when the official digital communications team for the wife of King Charles III released a photograph that would instantly dismantle any illusion of institutional detachment. Taking to the global platform of Instagram, the 78-year-old royal figure shared a striking image of herself standing side by side with the 60-year-old creator of the globally recognized Harry Potter universe, J.K. Rowling. The setting for this highly charged meeting was none other than the historic Palace of Holyroodhouse, the official royal residence in Scotland, a location steeped in centuries of statecraft and solemn tradition. In the photograph, the royal figure was dressed in a meticulously tailored all-blue outfit, projecting a sense of classic elegance and calm authority, while Rowling stood directly beside her, sporting a crisp white blazer layered over a deep navy blue blouse and matching trousers. The visual composition of the image was clean, professional, and entirely traditional, yet the subtext underlying its release was anything but simple. The accompanying caption sought to frame the meeting as a celebration of a mutual dedication to literature, explicitly noting that the two prominent women possessed a shared passion for books and a deep commitment to encouraging young children to read purely for pleasure. The official text went on to explain that Her Majesty and Ms. Rowling had engaged in an extensive discussion regarding the fundamental importance of ensuring that young people around the world have consistent access to literature, highlighting the absolutely vital part that reading plays in opening essential doors of opportunity for all future generations. However, the carefully crafted corporate framing of the post was immediately overwhelmed by a relentless wave of intense public fury, as critics and advocates alike flooded the comments section to call out the royal institution for a profound error in situational awareness and cultural timing. The core of the public anger centered entirely around the timing of the publication, which occurred directly during the month of June, a period globally observed and celebrated as Pride Month, dedicated to honoring, uplifting, and protecting the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community. Given Rowling's highly publicized, deeply entrenched, and fiercely vocal anti-trans views, the decision to publish a high-profile, smiling photograph with the author during this specific cultural window was viewed by thousands as an explicit, tone-deaf statement of alignment. The digital comment section quickly transformed into a fierce ideological battleground, reflecting the deep wounds and immense polarization that characterize modern social discourse. One deeply disappointed observer wrote that, as an ardent admirer of the royal figure and her prestigious reading room initiative, they felt a profound sense of sadness to see the institution providing such a massive, validated platform to the author, adding that doing so during Pride Month of all times felt like a direct slap in the face to vulnerable communities. The commenter emphasized that there are countless other truly admirable and non-controversial individuals currently working around the world who could have been spotlighted for their efforts to champion children's literacy without bringing immense cultural baggage to the palace steps. Another user summarized the widespread sentiment more bluntly, pointing out that choosing to upload this specific picture during Pride Month was, in itself, an undeniable, deliberate cultural statement that could not be brushed aside as a mere coincidence. As the hours ticked by, the volume of digital condemnation escalated, with the phrase "trans rights are human rights" appearing hundreds of times in identical succession across the official feed, serving as a digital protest banner against the royal house. Some users went so far as to describe the royal figure's public association as outright deplorable, expressing an unwavering solidarity with the international LGBTQI+ community and demanding accountability for what they perceived as a reckless endorsement of exclusionary rhetoric. Yet, the digital arena was not entirely uniform in its condemnation, as a fierce counter-narrative quickly emerged from dedicated supporters of the world-famous author, who rushed to the comment section to mount an aggressive defense of her character and her right to free expression. These defenders argued that a dangerous double standard had taken hold of modern public discourse, pointing out that when individuals with massive global platforms articulate opinions that align with the prevailing cultural orthodoxy, they are universally celebrated and praised as heroes of progress. However, the moment an intellectual or a public figure expresses a genuinely different, biologically grounded opinion, they are instantly subjected to systematic condemnation, public vilification, and coordinated digital attacks. This glaring inconsistency, the supporters argued, exposes a deep-seated bias within contemporary society, where nuance is completely discarded in favor of ideological conformity, and where an ancient royal institution should not be bullied into cancelling a legendary literary icon simply because her philosophical positions make a vocal segment of the internet uncomfortable. To fully comprehend the extraordinary weight of this controversy, one must trace the long, documented history of Rowling's public statements, which have systematically alienated her from vast segments of her original fanbase and created an irreparable rift at the very heart of the multi-billion-dollar Harry Potter media franchise. This ongoing cultural war reached a particularly explosive flashpoint in October of 2023, when the author deliberately shared a graphic image on her social media account that featured the phrase, "Repeat after us, trans women are women." Beneath this widely accepted modern progressive slogan, Rowling added a singular, definitive, and highly inflammatory one-word caption, writing simply, "No." The public reaction was immediate and fierce, but rather than walking back her statement or offering a clarifying apology, the author chose to double down on her position in the most dramatic terms imaginable, explicitly stating to her millions of followers that she would willingly and happily go to jail for a period of 2 years if the alternative presented to her was compelled speech, and a forced denial of what she firmly views as the objective reality and fundamental importance of biological sex. This uncompromising stance sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, forcing the major stars who owed their global careers to her magical world to publicly break ranks with their creator. Icons of the franchise like Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson, who portrayed Harry Potter and Hermione Granger respectively, felt compelled to release public statements explicitly denouncing Rowling's views, establishing a permanent ideological distance between themselves and the woman who had penned the characters that defined their lives. The internal warfare within the franchise escalated even further during a subsequent month of May, when Rowling launched a blistering, highly calculated counterattack via a lengthy, scathing essay. This literary broadside was written in direct response to a group of Harry Potter actors who had signed a prominent pro-trans open letter following a historic legal ruling by the United Kingdom Supreme Court. The highest court in the nation had officially ruled that within the framework of specific domestic statutes, the terms woman and sex refer strictly and unyielding to a biological woman and biological sex. When actors within her creative orbit, including high-profile figures such as Eddie Redmayne, Papa Essiedu, and Katie Leung, publicly aligned themselves with the pro-trans protest letter, Rowling did not mince her words. In her public essay, she explicitly described these actors as backstabbing colleagues, fiercely claiming that their public stances were not motivated by genuine moral conviction, but were instead entirely driven by a profound, paralyzing fear of being targeted by modern cancel culture. This public denunciations effectively shattered any remaining hope of reconciliation within the beloved franchise, drawing a hard line in the sand, and forcing every single person associated with the wizarding world to choose a side in an ongoing, brutal war of values that shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. The shockwaves of this deep-seated cultural rift have extended far beyond the immediate circle of the original film cast, directly impacting the highly anticipated next generation of the franchise. As the entertainment industry prepared for a massive television reboot of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone under the premium banner of HBO, the shadow of the author's public positions hung heavily over the entire casting process. This complex reality became strikingly apparent when the legendary American actor John Lithgow was officially cast to portray the iconic Hogwarts headmaster Albus Dumbledore. At nearly 80 years old, Lithgow represents an immense acting force, a highly versatile veteran of stage, television, and film, whose celebrated career boasts 6 Emmy Awards, 2 Golden Globes, and 2 Tony Awards. Yet, even an industry titan of his caliber was not immune to the immense pressure radiating from the ongoing cultural warfare surrounding the wizarding world. In an illuminating disclosure, Lithgow admitted that he was strongly urged by friends, colleagues, and various industry insiders to completely stay away from the television production, with many actively sending him open protest letters demanding that he refuse the role of Dumbledore as a public stand against Rowling's controversial views. Despite the intense pushback, the veteran actor ultimately decided to honor his contract and accept the monumental 8-year commitment, a decision that would heavily define the final chapter of his illustrious professional life. Reflecting on the intense dilemma, Lithgow candidly stated that while he personally disagrees with much of what the author has expressed, viewing her opinions as deeply ironic and inexplicable, he felt that the artistic and narrative reasons to participate in the landmark series were fundamentally stronger than the reasons to engage in a public protest against the creator. Wizarding World, Issue 1. This modern clash between traditional authority and contemporary activism takes on an even deeper layer of complexity when one analyzes the biographies and institutional roles of the primary participants caught in the center of the storm. Queen Camilla, born into an aristocratic family and long accustomed to the severe, unyielding pressures of British high society, has spent decades navigating a highly turbulent relationship with the public. Following her historic marriage to King Charles III and her subsequent elevation to the role of Queen Consort, she has worked tirelessly to build a legacy centered around public service, community engagement, and a deeply genuine devotion to promoting literacy through her global initiative, the Queen's Reading Room. This project was carefully designed to operate entirely above the chaotic fray of contemporary politics, seeking to unite diverse audiences around a universal love for books, storytelling, and the enrichment of young minds. However, by publicly introducing J.K. Rowling into this specific arena, the royal house inadvertently destabilized its own carefully constructed image of universal inclusivity. The choice to feature an author who is fiercely viewed by massive global communities as a primary antagonist in the fight for transgender recognition was seen by critics not as a harmless literary meeting, but as a calculated institutional validation. For an ancient monarchy that relies heavily on maintaining a delicate balance of quiet neutrality and universal representation to ensure its modern survival, this visual alignment created a severe structural fracture, exposing the deep vulnerability of traditional institutions when they interact with the hypercharged environment of modern social media. On the other side of this historic encounter stands J.K. Rowling, a figure whose remarkable life story was once universally celebrated as a definitive modern fairy tale. Rising from absolute poverty and the status of a struggling single mother in Edinburgh, she constructed a multi-billion-dollar literary empire that completely transformed global popular culture and inspired hundreds of millions of children to discover the pure joy of reading. For decades, her name was synonymous with magic, empathy, and the ultimate triumph of kindness over cruelty, establishing a profound reservoir of public goodwill that seemed entirely unbreakable. Yet, her transformation from a universally beloved literary icon into one of the most polarizing and fiercely criticized figures in contemporary public discourse represents one of the most astonishing cultural shifts of the 21st century. Her unyielding insistence on the primacy of biological sex and her fierce rejection of modern gender identity frameworks have turned her creative legacy into a permanent battleground. Despite facing immense backlash, a catastrophic collapse of support among her original fans, and severe public denunciation from the very actors she helped catapult to superstardom, Rowling has consistently refused to retreat. Instead, she has used her massive wealth and global platform to double down on her philosophical convictions, repeatedly stating that she views the defense of biological reality as a fundamental moral duty that far outweighs any risk of social ostracization or professional damage. The explosive intersection of these two highly influential women at the Palace of Holyroodhouse serves as a powerful testament to the total inescapable nature of our modern culture wars, proving that no individual or institution can remain entirely insulated from the fierce ideological battles defining our era. What was originally intended by Palace aides to be a routine, positive press release celebrating a shared commitment to children's education was instantly transformed by a vigilant public into a massive, highly visible referendum on institutional morality and representation. Every aspect of the event, from the precise visual composition of the photograph to the exact timing of its release during a globally recognized month of solidarity, was thoroughly analyzed and weaponized by competing factions to advance their respective narratives. For supporters of progressive social change, the image represented a profound and deeply tone-deaf betrayal by a royal house that claims to represent all citizens equally, highlighting a severe disconnect between ancient traditional power structures and the lived realities of vulnerable contemporary communities. Conversely, for advocates of absolute free expression and traditional biological definitions, The encounter was championed as a courageous and long overdue refusal to capitulate to the intense pressures of digital intimidation and modern cancellation efforts, as this complex narrative continues to unfold across the global media landscape. It leaves behind an entirely transformed cultural terrain where the traditional boundaries of public engagement have been permanently rewritten. The long-term implications of this controversy will undoubtedly reverberate through the entertainment industry, the publishing world, and the highest echelons of institutional power for many years to come. The ongoing production of the landmark television reboot will continue to move forward under an intense magnifying glass, with every single casting decision, script adjustment, and promotional campaign forced to navigate the permanent ideological division that now sits at the absolute core of the franchise. Similarly, the royal institution will be forced to engage in a deep, highly cautious re-examination of its modern communications strategy, recognizing that in a hyper-connected world, there is no longer any such thing as a neutral public gesture. The definitive takeaway from this extraordinary modern saga is that the words we speak, the associations we choose to display, and the timing of our public declarations carry immense consequences that cannot be mitigated by generic public relations statements or corporate framing. In an era defined by a fierce, uncompromising struggle over identity, language, and truth, the intersection of traditional authority and modern literary power has created a permanent historical marker, serving